A blind 11-year-old girl stood alone on a highway, abandoned by the one person who was supposed to love her forever. The heat burned her bare feet. The cars rushed past without stopping. She had nothing. No family, no home, no hope. Then a sleek black car pulled over. The man who stepped out was Carter Langston, a billionaire with a tragic past and a secret that would change everything. What he did next didn't just shock everyone who heard the story. It shattered every assumption about why the wealthy help the desperate. But this isn't a simple tale of rescue. Because 3 weeks later, the woman who abandoned Maya came back, not out of love, but for something far more sinister. And the battle that followed would determine whether Maya would finally find the family she deserved or lose everything all over again. This is the story of a girl who was thrown away and the stranger who refused to let her fall. The car door slammed so hard it echoed through Maya's chest like a drum. She heard her mother's footsteps, sharp, deliberate, crunching gravel as they moved away, getting quieter, fainter, gone. Maya's hands shot out, grasping at air. "Mama?" Her voice cracked, small and desperate against the roar of distant traffic. The heat of the asphalt beneath her bare feet burned, but she didn't move. Couldn't. "Mama, please!" The sound of the engine starting was the worst sound in the world. She'd known something was wrong the moment her mother told her to get out of the car. The tone had been too flat, too final. But Maya had obeyed. She always obeyed, because disobedience meant silence, and silence from her mother was worse than anger. Now there was only silence. The car pulled away. Maya heard it merge into traffic, swallowed by the hum of a city that didn't care. She stood frozen on the side of the road, her white cane clutched in one hand, her small backpack digging into her shoulders. The sun beat down on her face, and somewhere nearby, a horn blared. She was 11 years old, blind since birth, and utterly, completely alone. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. She wanted to scream, but her throat had locked up. Tears spilled hot down her cheeks, but she wiped them away fast. Mama hated it when she cried. Except Mama wasn't here anymore. Mama had left her. On purpose. Maya tried to remember the last thing her mother had said before she'd told her to get out. Something about being tired, about needing space, about Maya being too much, too much. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment with where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see people from all over the world connecting through these stories. And this one might just remind you that no one's truly safe from life's surprises. The words echoed in her head, sharp and cruel. She'd heard them before, whispered late at night when her mother thought she was asleep, shouted during arguments with men whose names Maya never learned. Always the same refrain. "You're too much. I can't do this anymore." But Maya had never thought her mother would actually leave. She turned in a slow circle, her cane sweeping the ground in front of her. Concrete, gravel, a curb. She was on a sidewalk, maybe, or the shoulder of a road. Cars rushed past, close enough that the wind from them tugged at her thin jacket. Horns honked. Someone shouted something she couldn't make out. No one stopped. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted her grip on the cane. She needed to move, needed to find... what? Help? Shelter? Her mother? No. Her mother wasn't coming back. The realization settled over her like ice water. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't her mother losing her temper and needing to cool off. This was permanent. Maya's knees buckled, and she sank down onto the curb, wrapping her arms around herself. She'd always known she was a burden. She'd heard it enough times. But she'd never imagined this, being thrown away like trash on the side of a highway. A semi-truck roared past, and she flinched, squeezing her eyes shut as if that would make the world disappear. It didn't. She didn't know how long she sat there. Minutes, hours. The sun shifted, and the heat became unbearable, but she didn't move. Where would she even go? Then she heard footsteps, different from before. Slower, heavier, coming toward her. Maya's entire body tensed. She gripped her cane tighter, her heart hammering in her chest. Strangers were dangerous, her mother had told her that much. Strangers took advantage. Strangers hurt little girls like her. But what choice did she have? The footsteps stopped a few feet away. A man's voice, deep and careful, broke the silence. "Hey, are you okay?" Maya didn't answer. She turned her face away, her jaw clenched. Mama had always told her not to talk to strangers. But Mama had also left her here, so maybe Mama's rules didn't matter anymore. "I'm not going to hurt you," the man said, and something in his tone made her hesitate. It wasn't angry, it wasn't impatient. It was worried. "Do you need help?" Maya's lips trembled. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice betrayed her. She wasn't fine. She'd never been less fine in her life. There was a pause. Then the man crouched down, and she could hear the fabric of his clothes rustling. Expensive clothes, maybe. The sound was smooth, not rough like the second-hand stuff she wore. "You don't look fine," he said gently. "You're sitting on the side of a highway with no shoes." She curled her toes instinctively, suddenly aware of how raw her feet felt. She hadn't noticed before. "I lost them," she lied. Another pause. Longer this time. "What's your name?" Maya hesitated. Giving her name felt dangerous, like handing over a piece of herself she couldn't get back. But the alternative, staying silent, staying here, felt worse. "Maya," she finally said. "Maya." The man repeated it softly like he was trying it out. "I'm Carter. Carter Langston." The name didn't mean anything to her, but the way he said it, calm, steady, made something in her chest loosen just a little. She still didn't turn toward him. "Maya, where are your parents?" The question hit her like a punch. Her throat tightened, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. "Gone," she managed. The word came out broken, and she hated herself for it. "Gone," Carter repeated quietly. "Did they leave you here?" Maya nodded, unable to speak. The truth was too big, too awful to say out loud. She heard Carter exhale slowly like he was trying to keep his composure. "Okay," he said. "Okay. Listen to me, Maya. You can't stay here. It's not safe. Will you let me help you?" Maya's instincts screamed at her to say no, to run. But where would she run to? And how far would she get before she collapsed? "Why?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Why do you care?" Carter was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Because no one should be left on the side of the road, especially not a kid." Something about the simplicity of his answer broke through her fear. She turned her head slightly in his direction, though she still couldn't see him. "Are you going to hurt me?" "No." His voice was firm, unwavering. "I promise you, I'm not." Maya wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. But belief was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not after today. Not after everything. Still, what choice did she have? Slowly, she nodded. Carter helped her to her feet, his hand gentle but steady on her elbow. He didn't rush her, didn't pull her along. He waited until she was ready, and then he guided her toward what she assumed was his car. The door opened with a soft click, and she climbed inside. The seats were leather, smooth and cool against her legs. The air conditioning washed over her like a blessing, and she let out a shaky breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Carter slid into the driver's seat and closed the door. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he said, "I'm going to take you somewhere safe, okay? Somewhere you can rest and figure out what happens next." Maya nodded, though she didn't really understand what safe meant anymore. Safe had been her mother's apartment, and her mother had thrown her away. Safe had been the sound of her mother's voice, and that voice had told her to get out. Safe didn't exist. But as the car pulled away from the curb and merged into traffic, Maya felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. It was small, fragile, dangerous. But it was there. Carter drove in silence for a while, and Maya was grateful for it. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to process any of this. Her mind kept replaying the moment her mother's car had driven away, the sound of the engine fading into nothing. "Do you have any family?" Carter asked eventually, breaking the silence. "Anyone I can call?" Maya shook her head. "Just my mom. And she—" Her voice trailed off. She didn't need to finish the sentence. And if Maya's journey is touching your heart, hit that like button. Your support means the world and helps stories like this reach people who need them most. Carter's jaw tightened. She could hear it in the way he exhaled through his nose. "Right," he said quietly. Then, after a pause, "Do you have a place to stay? Friends? Anyone?" "No." The word hung heavy in the air between them. Carter didn't respond immediately, and Maya wondered if he was regretting his decision to pick her up. Maybe he'd realized she was too much trouble. Maybe he'd drop her off at a police station or a shelter and wash his hands of her. But then he said, "Okay, then you'll stay with me." Maya's head snapped toward him, her heart lurching. "What?" "Just for tonight," he added quickly. "Until we can figure out a better plan. I have a guest room. You'll be safe there." Safe. That word again. Maya didn't know why, but she believed him. Or maybe she just wanted to believe him so badly that she'd convinced herself it was true. Either way, she nodded. Carter's house wasn't a house. It was a mansion. Maya could tell the moment they pulled through the gates. The crunch of gravel turned to smooth pavement, and the air smelled different, cleaner, like fresh-cut grass and flowers. When Carter helped her out of the car, the ground beneath her feet was cool stone, not rough concrete. "This way," he said, guiding her up a set of stairs. The front door opened with a faint beep, some kind of electronic lock. And then they were inside. The air conditioning was even stronger here, and the space felt enormous. Maya could hear the faint echo of their footsteps, the way sound traveled in big, empty rooms. "Maria!" Carter called out, and a moment later, Maya heard quick footsteps approaching. "Mr. Langston?" A woman's voice, warm and accented. "You're home early. I wasn't expecting—" She stopped mid-sentence, and Maya felt the weight of her stare. "This is Maya," Carter said. "She's going to be staying with us for a while." Silence. Then, "I see." Maria's voice had shifted, still warm but cautious now. "Does she need anything? Food? A bath?" "Both, probably," Carter said. "And a bed. Can you set up the guest room on the second floor?" "Of course." Maya stood there, frozen, as the two of them discussed her like she wasn't in the room. She wanted to say something, to assert herself, to prove she wasn't helpless, but the words wouldn't come. Maria's hand touched her shoulder, gentle and reassuring. "Come with me, sweetheart. Let's get you cleaned up." Maya followed her, her cane tapping softly against the marble floor. She didn't know what she'd expected, but it wasn't this. Wasn't a mansion with a housekeeper and marble floors and a man who'd picked her up off the side of the road like she mattered. It didn't make sense. And yet here she was. As Maria led her upstairs, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Not dangerous. At least, she didn't think so. But off. Why had Carter stopped for her? Why had he brought her here instead of dropping her at a shelter? What did he want? The question gnawed at her, and by the time Maria helped her into the guest room, Maya's hands were shaking again. "You're safe here," Maria said softly, as if reading her mind. "Mr. Langston is a good man." Maya wanted to believe her, but she'd believed her mother too. And look where that had gotten her. Maya woke to the smell of bacon. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The bed beneath her was too soft, the sheets too smooth. The air smelled like lavender instead of the stale cigarette smoke that usually clung to her mother's apartment. And there was silence, real silence. Not the constant hum of traffic and shouting neighbors that had been the soundtrack of her life. Then it all came rushing back. The road, her mother's car driving away. Carter Langston. She sat up slowly, her heart racing. The room around her felt massive, and she reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against a nightstand. Wood, polished and expensive. Nothing like the chipped plastic furniture she was used to. Where was her cane? Panic flared in her chest before she found it, leaning against the bed, right where Maria must have left it. She grabbed it like a lifeline and stood, her bare feet sinking into carpet so thick it felt like walking on clouds. A soft knock on the door made her freeze. "Maya?" Maria's voice, gentle and warm. "Are you awake?" Maya's throat was dry. "Yes." The door opened and she heard Maria step inside. "Good morning, mija. Did you sleep well?" Maya nodded, though well wasn't the right word. She'd slept, yes, but her dreams had been full of her mother's face, of car engines and empty roads. She'd woken up 3 times during the night, convinced she was back on that highway curb. "Mr. Langston asked me to bring you downstairs for breakfast," Maria continued. "Are you hungry?" Maya's stomach answered before she could, growling loud enough that Maria chuckled. "I'll take that as a yes. Come on, let's get you dressed first." 20 minutes later, Maya sat at a dining table that felt longer than her entire apartment had been. The chair beneath her was padded leather, and the table was smooth glass. She could hear the faint clink of silverware, the hum of a refrigerator somewhere in the distance, and Carter's steady breathing across from her. "How did you sleep?" he asked. Maya picked at the edge of her plate, her fingers finding scrambled eggs, toast, and what felt like sliced fruit. "Fine," she lied. Carter didn't respond right away, and she wondered if he could tell she wasn't being honest. Adults usually could. They had a way of hearing the things you didn't say. "Maria makes the best breakfast in the city," he said finally, his tone light. "You should eat. You need your strength." Maya took a small bite of eggs. They were fluffy and warm, seasoned with something she couldn't identify but tasted incredible. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the food hit her tongue, and suddenly she was shoveling it in, barely stopping to breathe. Carter didn't say anything, but she could feel him watching her, not in a creepy way, more like he was trying to figure her out. She hated being watched. "So," Carter said after a long silence, "we need to talk about what happens next." Maya's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Here it was. The catch. The moment when he told her she had to leave, or worse, that he was calling the police, or social services, or someone who would ship her off to a place where no one wanted her. She set the fork down carefully, her appetite gone. "I made some calls this morning," Carter continued, and Maya's heart sank. "To a lawyer, a friend of mine who specializes in family law." "I don't have any family," Maya said quickly, her voice sharper than she intended. "I told you that." "I know." Carter's tone was calm, patient. "But there are legal things we need to figure out. If you're going to stay here, stay here?" Maya's head snapped up. What do you mean, stay here? Carter paused. Maya, you can't go back to living on the streets, and I'm not going to let you end up in the system if I can help it. Maya's chest tightened. Why? The question came out harsh, almost accusatory. Why do you care? You don't even know me. You're right, Carter admitted. I don't know you, but I know what it's like to feel abandoned, and I know that no kid deserves to be thrown away like you were. The words hit her like a slap. Thrown away. That's exactly what had happened, wasn't it? Her mother had thrown her away like she was garbage. Maya's hands clenched into fists on the table. I'm not your charity case. I never said you were. Then what am I? Her voice cracked and she hated herself for it. What do you want from me? Carter was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer. I don't want anything from you, Maya. I just want to help. Nobody helps for free, Maya shot back. There's always a catch. Not this time. Maya didn't believe him. Couldn't believe him. People like Carter Langston, rich people, powerful people, didn't just pick up random kids off the street and offer them a place to stay without expecting something in return. That wasn't how the world worked. But then again, her mother had abandoned her on the side of a highway. So maybe she didn't know how the world worked after all. After breakfast, Maria led Maya to a sitting room on the first floor. The furniture was soft, the air smelled like fresh flowers, and classical music played faintly in the background. It was the kind of place Maya had only seen in movies, the kind of place where rich people lived their perfect, untouchable lives. She didn't belong here. Mr. Langston will be back in a few minutes, Maria said, guiding Maya to a couch. He's just finishing up a call. Can I get you anything? Water? Juice? I'm fine, Maya said quietly. Maria hesitated, then sat down beside her. You know, she said gently, I've worked for Mr. Langston for 10 years, and in all that time, I've never seen him bring anyone home, especially not a child. Maya frowned. So, he's a good man, mija. He's not going to hurt you. Whatever you're afraid of, you don't have to be afraid of him. Maya wanted to believe her, but trust was a dangerous thing. Trust was what had gotten her abandoned. Why doesn't he have kids? Maya asked suddenly. If he's so rich, why doesn't he have a family? Maria's smile faded slightly. That's not my story to tell, but he's been through his own pain. Maybe that's why he stopped for you. Before Maya could respond, she heard footsteps approaching. Carter entered the room, and Maria stood, excusing herself quietly. Carter sat down in a chair across from Maya, and she heard him exhale slowly, like he was gathering his thoughts. I spoke with my lawyer, he said, and with a social worker I trust. Given your situation, there are a few options. Maya's stomach twisted. Options. That word never meant anything good. The first option is that we contact the authorities and they place you in foster care. It's the standard procedure for— No! The word came out sharp and immediate. Maya had heard enough stories about foster care to know she didn't want any part of it. Kids who disappeared. Kids who got bounced from home to home. Kids who were worse off than they'd been before. Carter paused. Okay. Then the second option is that I apply to become your temporary guardian. Maya's breath caught. What? It would be temporary, Carter clarified, until we can figure out a more permanent solution. But it would mean you'd stay here, with me, legally. Maya's mind reeled. This man, this stranger, wanted to become her guardian? It didn't make sense. None of this made sense. Why? She asked again. Her voice barely above a whisper. Why would you do that? Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I was 12, my father left. Just walked out one day and never came back. My mother did her best, but we struggled. We were poor, and I was angry, and I spent most of my teenage years thinking the world owed me something." Maya listened, her heart pounding. "Eventually, someone helped me," Carter continued. "A teacher who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He paid for my college applications, wrote my recommendation letters, made sure I had a chance to get out. And I did. I built a life for myself. But I never forgot what it felt like to be that kid, the one who thought no one cared." He paused, and Maya could hear the weight in his voice. "I'm not trying to replace your mother, Maya, and I'm not trying to save you. But I can give you a chance. A real chance. If you'll let me." Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But what if he was lying? What if this was all some elaborate setup and she was walking straight into a trap? "I need to think about it," she said finally. Carter nodded. "That's fair. Take your time." Maya spent the rest of the day alone in her room, her mind spinning. Could she really trust Carter Langston? Or was she just desperate enough to believe in a fantasy? She thought about her mother, about the way she'd said "get out" like Maya was nothing, like she'd been waiting for an excuse to get rid of her. And then she thought about Carter's voice, the way he'd promised not to hurt her, the way he'd offered her a choice instead of making decisions for her. By the time the sun set, Maya had made up her mind. She found Carter in his study, sitting behind a massive desk covered in papers. When she knocked on the doorframe, he looked up, surprised. "Maya?" She stepped inside, her cane tapping softly against the hardwood floor. Her heart was racing, but she forced herself to speak. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." Carter's expression softened. "You're sure?" Maya nodded. She wasn't sure. Not even close. But staying here was better than the alternative. "All right," Carter said. "Then we'll start the paperwork tomorrow." Maya turned to leave, but then Carter called out to her. "Maya?" She stopped. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me." Maya didn't respond. She wasn't sure she did trust him, but she wanted to. And maybe, for now, that was enough. That night, as Maya lay in bed, she heard a sound that made her freeze. Footsteps, in the hallway, coming toward her room. They stopped just outside her door. Maya's breath caught in her throat, and she gripped the edge of her blanket, every muscle in her body tense. The doorknob turned, and then the door creaked open. Maya's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She sat up in bed, her hands trembling as she clutched the blanket to her chest. "Who's there?" "It's just me." Carter's voice, soft and apologetic. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I saw your light was still on." Maya exhaled shakily, her body sagging with relief. But the fear didn't entirely leave her. "What do you want?" "I couldn't sleep," Carter admitted. There was something different in his tone, something vulnerable. "And I thought maybe you couldn't either." He was right. Maya had been lying awake for over an hour, her mind racing with questions and doubts. But she wasn't about to admit that. "I'm fine," she said. Carter was quiet for a moment. Then she heard him step into the room, and the door clicked shut behind him. "Can I sit?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. She heard him cross the room and settle into what must have been the armchair by the window. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You know," Carter said finally, "when I told you about my father earlier, I didn't tell you the whole story." Maya's fingers tightened on the blanket. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know who I really am. If you're going to stay here, you should know the truth. Maya's pulse quickened. Here it was, the catch. The dark secret that would explain why a billionaire had picked up a random blind girl off the highway. My father didn't just leave, Carter continued, his voice low. He left because of me. Maya frowned. What do you mean? Carter exhaled slowly and she could hear the pain in it. I was born with a condition, a genetic disorder. Nothing life-threatening, but it required constant medical care. Expensive medical care. My father, he couldn't handle it. The debt, the stress, the responsibility of having a kid who wasn't perfect. So one day he walked out, left my mother to deal with everything alone. Maya's chest tightened. She understood that kind of abandonment, the kind that came from being too much trouble. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, Carter said, and I spent my entire childhood feeling like it was my fault. Like if I'd just been normal, he would have stayed. That's not your fault, Maya said quietly. I know that now, Carter replied. But it took me a long time to learn it. And even longer to forgive myself for something I couldn't control. Maya swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this? Because when I saw you on that highway, I saw myself. A kid who'd been abandoned for something that wasn't their fault. And I couldn't just drive past. Maya wanted to believe him, but there was still something that didn't add up. You're a billionaire, she said. You could help thousands of kids. Why me? Carter was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because you reminded me of my daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Maya's breath caught. Your daughter? Had, Carter corrected, his voice breaking. I had a daughter. Maya didn't know what to say. The room felt suddenly colder, heavier. Her name was Sophie, Carter continued. She would have been 13 now. She was blind, too. Born premature with optic nerve damage, but she was the light of my life. Maya's throat tightened. What happened to her? Carter's silence was answer enough. It was a car accident, he said finally. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light. Sophie was in the back seat. She didn't make it. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. I'm so sorry. My wife, Sophie's mother. She couldn't handle it, Carter went on, his voice thick with grief. The loss broke her, broke us. She left a year later. Said she couldn't look at me without seeing Sophie's face. Maya understood now. The mansion that felt too big, the guest room that seemed ready for a child, the kindness that felt almost desperate. Carter wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to save himself. So that's why you stopped, Maya said quietly. Because I look like her? No, Carter said quickly. You don't look like her. But when I saw you sitting there alone and afraid, I couldn't not stop. I couldn't let another child suffer the way Sophie did, the way I did. Maya didn't know how to respond. Part of her felt angry, like she was just a replacement, a way for Carter to ease his guilt. But another part of her understood the pain in his voice, the grief that never really went away. I'm not her, Maya said finally. I know, Carter replied. And I'm not trying to make you into her. I want to help you. If you'll let me. Maya sat in the darkness, her mind churning. This changed everything. Carter wasn't some mysterious stranger with ulterior motives. He was just a broken man trying to do something good. But did that make it better? Or worse? Okay, she said finally. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this doesn't work out, if I'm too much trouble or if you change your mind, you have to tell me. Don't just leave me somewhere. Don't abandon me like—" Her voice broke and she couldn't finish the sentence. "I promise," Carter said, his voice firm. "I will never abandon you, Maya, no matter what." Maya wanted to believe him, and this time, maybe she did. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Carter kept his word. He started the process to become Maya's temporary guardian, and his lawyer, a sharp-voiced woman named Rebecca, assured Maya that everything was being done by the book. Maya met with a social worker twice. The woman asked her questions about her mother, about Carter, about whether she felt safe. Maya answered honestly. Yes, she felt safe. Safer than she'd ever felt in her life. But safety came with its own kind of fear. What if this was temporary? What if the courts decided Carter wasn't a suitable guardian? What if her mother came back and demanded her return? The questions haunted her, but she tried to push them aside. Carter enrolled her in a private school for blind students. It was expensive, ridiculously expensive, but he didn't even blink at the cost. Maya protested at first, insisting she didn't need it. But Maria had sat her down and explained that education was the one thing no one could take away from her. So Maya went. And to her surprise, she didn't hate it. The teachers were patient. The students were kind. And for the first time in her life, Maya felt like she wasn't a burden. But just when things were starting to feel normal, everything changed. It was a Thursday afternoon when Rebecca called. Maya was in the sitting room practicing her braille when she heard Carter answer his phone in the hallway. His tone was casual at first, but within seconds it shifted. "What?" Carter's voice was sharp, almost panicked. "When?" Maya set down her book, her heart rate picking up. "No," Carter said. "No, that's not possible. She signed away her rights. She—" He stopped, and Maya could hear the frustration in his silence. "How did she even find out?" Maya's blood ran cold, her mother. "I don't care what she wants," Carter said, his voice hard now. "She abandoned Maya. She doesn't get to just come back." But even as he said it, Maya knew the truth. Her mother could come back. Legally, she still had rights. And if she wanted Maya back, if she claimed it was all a mistake, a moment of weakness, there was nothing Carter could do to stop her. Maya stood, her hands shaking, and made her way to the hallway. Carter was still on the phone, pacing, and he didn't notice her at first. "We'll fight it," he was saying. "I don't care what it costs. She's not taking Maya." Maya's throat tightened. "She wants me back?" Carter spun around, and the phone went quiet. "Maya, does she want me back?" Maya's voice was louder now, sharper. Carter hesitated, then, quietly, "Yes." The word hit Maya like a freight train. Her mother, the woman who had thrown her away, who had driven off and left her on the side of a highway, wanted her back. "Why?" Maya demanded. "Why now?" Carter set the phone down, his expression grim. "Rebecca thinks she saw the news coverage. About you. About me. There were a few articles when the temporary guardianship went through. Your mother must have seen them and realized—" "Realized you have money," Maya finished bitterly. Carter didn't deny it. Maya's hands clenched into fists. "She doesn't want me. She wants your money." "We don't know that for sure." "Yes, we do." Maya's voice was shaking now, a mix of anger and fear. "She left me on the side of the road, Carter. She told me I was too much. And now she thinks she can just take me back?" "She won't," Carter said firmly. "I won't let her." "You can't stop her," Maya shot back. "You said it yourself. Legally, she still has rights." Carter's jaw tightened. Then we'll fight her in court. We'll prove she's unfit. We'll— What if we lose? Maya's voice cracked. What if the judge makes me go back to her? Carter stepped forward and placed his hands gently on Maya's shoulders. That's not going to happen. I promise you, Maya. I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. Maya wanted to believe him, but she'd heard promises before. The court hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Those 2 weeks were the longest of Maya's life. She barely slept. She barely ate. Every time the phone rang, she flinched, convinced it was bad news. Carter hired the best family lawyer in the state, a man named Gregory Hale, who spoke with the kind of authority that made Maya feel slightly less terrified. But even he couldn't guarantee a win. Your mother will argue that she made a mistake, Gregory explained during one of their meetings, that she was overwhelmed and acted impulsively. The court will want to hear her side. Her side? Maya's voice was incredulous. She abandoned me. I know, Gregory said gently, and we'll make sure the judge knows that too. But you need to be prepared for her to paint herself as the victim. Maya's stomach churned. The night before the hearing, she couldn't sleep at all. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling she couldn't see, and thought about what would happen if she lost. If the judge decided her mother deserved another chance. She'd rather run away than go back. Around midnight, she heard a soft knock on her door. Maya? Carter's voice. Can I come in? Yeah. Carter entered and sat on the edge of her bed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I'm scared, Maya admitted finally. I know, Carter said. I am too. Maya turned toward him, surprised. You are? Of course I am. Carter's voice was raw. I can't lose you, Maya. Not after— He stopped, his voice breaking. I can't lose another daughter. Maya's chest tightened. She reached out instinctively, and Carter took her hand, squeezing it gently. Whatever happens tomorrow, Carter said, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You will never be alone again. I promise you that. Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she believed him. The courtroom was cold and silent. Maya sat beside Carter and Gregory, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She could hear people shuffling in the gallery behind her, the scratch of a pen as the court reporter took notes, the steady tick of a clock on the wall. And then she heard her mother's voice. Your Honor, I know I made a mistake. Maya's entire body tensed. It was the first time she'd heard her mother's voice in weeks, and it made her feel sick. I was overwhelmed, her mother continued, her tone pleading. I didn't know how to handle raising a blind child on my own. I panicked. But I've been getting help. I've been going to therapy. I'm ready to be the mother Maya deserves. Maya wanted to scream, to call her a liar, but Gregory had warned her to stay silent unless the judge asked her to speak. And you believe Mr. Langston is an unfit guardian? The judge asked. I believe he's a stranger, Maya's mother replied. A wealthy stranger who saw an opportunity to play hero. But Maya needs her real family. She needs her mother. Carter's hand found Maya's under the table, and she gripped it tightly. The judge was silent for a long moment. Then, I'd like to hear from Maya. Maya's heart stopped. Gregory leaned over and whispered, Just tell the truth. Maya stood on shaky legs and faced the direction of the judge's voice. Your Honor, she began, her voice trembling. My mother left me on the side of a highway. She told me I was too much trouble. She drove away and didn't look back. I made a mistake, her mother started, but the judge cut her off. Let her finish. Maya took a deep breath. Carter didn't have to stop for me. He didn't have to take me in, but he did. And he's been kinder to me in 3 weeks than my mother was in 11 years. Her voice grew stronger now, fueled by anger and pain. She doesn't want me back because she loves me. She wants me back because Carter has money. And if you send me back to her, I'll run away. I swear I will." The courtroom was silent. The judge leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "I'll take a short recess to review the evidence. We'll reconvene in 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like an eternity. Maya sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, Carter beside her, neither of them speaking. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. And then, finally, they were called back in. The judge cleared his throat. "I've reviewed the case thoroughly. And while I understand Ms. Bennett's desire to reunite with her daughter, I cannot ignore the facts. Maya was abandoned. That is not a moment of poor judgment. It's a failure of the most fundamental parental responsibility." Maya's breath caught. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "it's clear that Mr. Langston has provided Maya with a stable, loving environment. Given the circumstances, I'm granting Mr. Langston full temporary guardianship for the next 6 months. At that time, we'll revisit the arrangement." Maya felt the tears come before she could stop them. She'd won. Carter squeezed her hand, and she heard the relief in his voice as he whispered, "It's over." But as they left the courtroom, Maya heard her mother's voice one last time, low and venomous. "This isn't over." 6 months later, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her new bedroom, the one Carter had helped her decorate. She couldn't see her reflection, but Maria had described it to her, a girl who stood taller now, who smiled more, who looked like she belonged. The 6-month review had come and gone. The judge had made the guardianship permanent. Her mother hadn't shown up. Carter knocked on the door frame. "You ready? We don't want to be late for your recital." Maya had started piano lessons 2 months ago. Tonight was her first performance. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "You'll be amazing," Carter said. "You always are." Maya smiled. And as they headed out the door together, she realized something. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was home. Not because of the mansion or the money or the fancy school, but because someone had chosen her and hadn't let go. The end. Epilogue. 3 years later, Carter officially adopted Maya. On her 16th birthday, she stood in front of a judge once more, but this time, it was to make their family official. Maya went on to graduate top of her class, earned a scholarship to Juilliard, and became a world-renowned pianist. She never forgot where she came from, and she never stopped being grateful for the day a stranger stopped his car and chose to care. Carter never remarried. He didn't need to. He had everything he needed. He had his daughter. And this time, he wasn't going to lose her. Sometimes, the family you need isn't the one you're born into. It's the one that chooses to stay.